Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for Nehemiah to join us. Once he does, we will go ahead and start today's open discussion. Please have your questions and comments ready so that we can move right into the Q&A. Let's give us a couple more minutes and then we'll begin. All right, everyone. Welcome to another open discussion and various topics. Make sure all my settings are correct. Let's begin with prayer for the spiritual workers. And then we'll move into our Q&A session. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right. Welcome, everyone. Trust you've had a good week and are ready to participate in today's open discussion. As per usual, feel free to ask your questions or post your questions in the chat, or if you're joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature and ask your questions audibly. Do we have any questions or comments to start off with? Just closer. Okay, so we have a question from YouTube here. The greenish golden light is what kind of energy? I was working with it at a time with great results, and then ultimately got hurt. And I wonder if it had something to do with it.
Hello, everyone. It depends on what type of energy level you're trying to contact with the greenish or gold. Green is a healing color. It's a color to allow transmutation of energy. There are positive and negative sides to each color. Gold is a spiritual type color, and it's a transforming type color. But there are also positive and negative sides to it. And like all energy, you can use it for good or bad. On the far negative side to green, it can be a selfish, jealousy, envy type color. On the far positive side, it's a very healing color, and a color of transmutation, of transference of energy and power, and sustaining energy. So gold can be same thing on the far negative side of gold energy. It can be it can be very devastating and put you in a very isolated, individualist type mindset. And on the other side, it can be very expanding of consciousness and ecstatic bliss. So there's always two sides to an energy. It depends on where you contact that energy, on what level of consciousness that you are on that will have that energy to act in a certain way. And light and color is nothing but aspects of prana or shakti, energy radiating itself as prana. Hope that answers your question.
Welcome everyone joining us. Welcome to our open discussion. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Or if you'd like to join us via Zoom, so you can ask your questions audibly, let me know and I can post a link to our Zoom in the chat on YouTube. But either way, you can feel free to pose your questions and we will do our best to answer those for you. Anna, could you expand on your question a little bit? A bit more detail as to what you mean by work on the root chakra. Her question is how to work on the root chakra.
Well, a lot of people, they like to individualize the chakras. And if you study most yogi teachings, they don't do that. The yoga teachings will teach you that each chakra is a level of consciousness. And we are simultaneously using all the chakras all the time. And the thing what we need to do is bring about a balanced energy of those chakras. Someone telling you to just work on the root chakra or the Muladhara chakra or the base of the spine chakra, that's different names for the chakra. They are, they're giving you incorrect information according to the ancient teachings. So right now, most people on Earth operate from the Muladhara or the root chakra, as you call it, and the sex chakra. That's where most people on Earth consciousness resides. So to just give you some mechanics of the root chakra, there's an energy called, and there's a prana called apana. And this prana moves from the root chakra up to the heart chakra and bounces back to the root chakra. The prana from the heart chakra slightly goes up and goes back down to the root chakra and bounces back up. And they do this simultaneously while not actually amalgamating or mixing together. One of the goals of our life, and as we reincarnate over and over and over, is to synchronize these two energies in order to raise our consciousness to higher levels of existence. Pranayama is one of the techniques used to bring about the amalgamation of these two energies. Mantra is one of the ways to do this, and prayer is one of the ways to do this. Prayer through service, raising using mantra to raise our consciousness and be of greater service is another way. Raising the Kundalini to be of service is another way. So you cannot just work on the root chakra, right? And the root chakra is the start of self-consciousness. So when you begin to manipulate the energy, all the energy of the root chakra is always going up or down. So it will be it wouldn't be efficient to just work on the root chakra. You have to work on all the chakras in order to balance the energy, because what you have from the root chakra is you have the dormant Kundalini that's there, and the dormant Kundalini is releasing a sound vibration which release the nadis, and the nadis is nothing but a flow of energy that helps form all the different levels of consciousness within the basic auric structure of your body. So it's a place, it's a origination place for basic consciousness to be formed and to circulate energy up and down within the aura. So if they mean working on the root chakra by working on the nadis in order to create a greater flow of energy, that makes sense. And because as the nadis or the flow of energy comes up and crisscross into each of the chakras and the petals of the chakras, creating levels of consciousness, creating intertwining with the original samskaras of each chakra, then by increasing that flow, then we kill out, or we do away with the blockages that occurs in the flow of energy. And the blockages occur from our own thought and actions, which cause ripples within the auric field and the nadis. And that's what causes blockage. If we go out and we create and we commit some type of crime or foul act or treat someone terrible or cause chaos, then we create negative samskaras within the aura, which is actually blockages within the flow of nadis. And that's what real blockages are in the aura. And now they talking about that, yeah, but they need to be more specific. It's just not the root chakra. It's the nadis flowing through all the chakras, because it has a domino effect. I hope that answers your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. A question here from Jack. If we found ourselves caught in a situation like the one in Afghanistan, what should a yogi do? Would we ever take up arms in a situation like this? Thinking of the example of Gatha.
No, at our present, honestly, and I don't really like to go into this, but I will. But honestly, in our situation, talking about total mankind here, we are not prepared to take up arms uh, to fight because we lack the understanding of karmic law. If you understand karmic law, then you can take up arms. Now, and throughout all history, all the masters and or cosmic masters or bodhisattvas that came here to Earth have spoke about not having these wars. And if you do have a war, then they come in and they fight the battle for you, with you, making sure that you stay within the laws of karma. So it's not right to kill someone, to go and injure someone just because of monetary reasons, or because they don't believe what you believe, or they don't conduct themselves the way you conduct themselves. You got to think, if you believe in a God, and you believe in that God is all potent and all initiative and omniscient, you know, and have this divine intelligence, and God and the gods have allowed nearly 8 billion people to come here on this earth. Each one of them have a karmic pattern that they need to work out. So who are you to tell them how to act, how to walk, how to do whatever? I mean, it's almost ridiculous. Now, we can agree to live in a civil society, because everyone picks the society and the country that they that fit them karmically, whether you believe that or not. Their higher self placed them there. Their higher self is the divine spark of God. So we can work within the environment that we're in, and we can be an example to those people outside of our country and environment. But to go there in arms to force people to do something, you know, I don't know if that's the right answer. I think we need to look at it, and I'm sure there's ways to manipulate situations without killing people, you know. And there's many examples throughout history, and that you can, especially with the technology and the intelligence we have today. There's many ways to manipulate. You know, as Swami Sivananda said, I think it was during World War II, he expressed the fact that it was one country that that they was bombing, and he said, instead of invading the country and bombing the country, he said, just when you drop the food to the citizens, let them know where the food is coming from, and they will overturn their own government to make things better, because their own government was not feeding them. I hope that can answer your question. I hope that answers your question.
I guess he followed up and said, sure, I meant only in self-defense.
Well,
And
even in self-defense, we can get ourselves out of something without actually having to do violence. And the only thing we have to do is apply, uh, you know, intellectual logic. But you should sustain your life, you know. And one of the things, eh, you know, that's why it's very important to try to develop yourself and move on and understand, you know, as Jesus, the thing that Jesus went through, and several other figures throughout history, Zoroaster. Uh, there's many other great cosmic masters that demonstrated this to us. Even Sri Krishna, that you know, even when they brought Jesus before the Pilate and before the high priest, he showed no fear because he understood uh, this realm and the next realm and the realms above that. So he spoke to them and let them know that they had no power over him. And even when they took his physical life, he rebuilt his body, stepped back into the body, and showed them that death had no power over him. That's one of the reasons why we shouldn't be fighting war, because we don't have the ability to do that. You know, so, but, you know, we extend our life by not taking the life of someone else, because you rob them of their experience cycles through, you know, through their incarnations, so that they can reach this level of you know, of ascension that all of us are striving towards. I hope that answers your question.
And Jack, since you mentioned Gotha, there are a couple of lectures given by Dr. George King um, about the Gotha mission. And there's also the lecture given about when a Gotha master visited the headquarters. You can find those on the website. There's also a transmission from one of the Gotha masters. I think it's called Gotha Speaks to Earth. It's available on the society website. And there's also a very exciting, I don't think it was a cosmic, but I think it was a newsletter release. You can find it in the archive, where it goes into, and I'm not revealing anything because it's you can purchase it, it's publicly available, where it goes into the actual events of the Gotha mission, and one particular event where the intervention of the Lord of Karma. So that's really interesting read. It's in the archive. You can get that from the website, their society as well. I don't recall the exact issue and volume number, but if you email me, I can tell you, I'll look for it, email me, remind me, I'll look for it, and I'll tell you which one, so you can purchase the archive from the society and read that very interesting story. Are there any other questions? Before I move into some questions and highlights from the study session readings, I keep the floor open for any other more questions. But even as we look through the text, as we review the text, because we read it together on Fridays, and the recordings of those study sessions are available on YouTube. There's a playlist called Study Sessions. There are 2 videos there. The first video, we introduce the current text that we're studying, which is The Ancient Language of the Soul, the Mystic Knowledge of Mantra, written by Mr. Nehemiah Davis. In that first class, we introduced the text. We looked at a couple of statements and chapters 1 and 2. These study sessions are not discussions per se. It's really just me reading through the text, or reading through it together, making some highlights, jotting down some notes, and then preparing our questions to bring back to the author on Sundays, our open discussions. You're more than welcome and encouraged to read along with us. This text is available on our website, mysticknowledge.org, where you can find links to the Amazon page where you can purchase both this Kindle version or the physical text, a physical book. I will be reading through the Kindle version, but also going back and forth between the PDF version as well, so we can better look at the images and diagrams that did not translate well into the Kindle version. And then after this text, we'll look at several others and hopefully keep the study sessions going. We can, kind of like a book club idea where we study the different teachings and then come back together on Sunday to dive deeper into the material and get our questions answered. Before we do that, do we have any other questions or comments? All right. Let us begin. So last study session on Friday, and actually the second video, we looked at chapters 3 and 4. There's a lot of information in both chapters, but I only took a few highlights of chapter 3 and made a few notes or questions that I had. So I'll only review the highlights and save the actual reading. You can go back and watch the second video in the study session series and see the material covered in chapters 3 and chapter 4. Chapter 3 being the essence of mantra. Chapter 4, the power of mantra. A lot of information and quite honestly, a lot of secrets, I feel, are revealed in these two chapters, well, in the entire book. If you're paying attention, you can pick up a lot of keys and tools to help you, not only in your mantra japa, but in your spiritual practice and development. Chapter 4 is a bit of a long read. So take your time as you work through it. Let's start with the first highlight here, saying each sonic vibration is accompanied with a loyal servant of the lords of karma, a mighty diva. The divas balance the will of God by maintaining the laws that govern the sonic vibrations that maintain the involutional and evolutional process of creation. Nima, can you briefly go into the Devic kingdom and specifically the divas that are operating at this level as the loyal servants of the Lord of Karma, maintaining the laws that govern involution and evolution?
Yeah, recently I shared with the group a diagram. Remember, just a month ago or so, it actually talked about the devatas and the lords of karma.
Yes. Let me see.
And really what it is I guess the most simplistic way that Dr. George King put it was that a group of intelligence actually chose free will, and then another group chose freedom. When we begin to involve ourselves in and move down the road of evolution and evolution. Some of those who chose freedom, they became the divas or the loyal servants of karma. And what they do, they make sure that the law of karma, the law of God, is carried out and guaranteed. And they work from the smallest atomic level to the cellular level to the level of elements. They work as moons, as planets, as suns, as solar systems, galaxies. They are the driving force of all action. Karma means action. So they govern all actions throughout the galaxies and the universe. And they are the they are the power source. They govern the power source of the absolute, which is God, throughout all creation. So it's very complex, but it's very simple on the other end too to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that diagram that I was talking about?
I think I have it here. I think it was the Creative Source, Constitution of Man one.
Yeah, I think so.
That's Visio. That won't show properly. Let me find the other one. PDF. Okay. Let me swap to that. This one?
Yeah, it kind of let you know the realms of the gods and the lords of creation. These are devic lords. They don't deviate from the law of karma to cause the wrong reaction. All their actions are the right reactions. And that's the difference between us and the David kingdom. We constantly turn the law against us or negatively against us. When the divas always predetermine every action, and the devatas, which are the masters, every action is governed and measured to get the exact reaction. So, and that's one of the great difference between these the Diva kingdom or the lords of karma and the supreme lords of creation.
Okay, let's move on to the next highlight. Is the best way to describe or define mantra is as an ancient holy sonic vibration of creation. The meaning of this sound vibration can be seen as a wave of creative consciousness that gives life to all things. This wave of sound vibrations gives configuration to the collective and individual consciousness of all life. Therefore, sound is the instrument used to convey consciousness on all levels of intelligence. So my question there is I think the second sentence, this wave of sound vibrations gives configuration to the collective and individual consciousness of all life. So that means the collective human consciousness, and going all the way down to a country, a state, a city, a family. That group consciousness has a associated mantra or sound wave that configures it. And as we move throughout our lives, do we take on the different configurations of wherever we may be, different countries, or different families, different bodies? So is that sound wave is constantly changing?
Well, in a sense, and what it is just like, you remember your aura is a vibrational type aura. It's actually a devic. It's actually a devic laboratory. I'm sure you heard me say that before, right?
Yes, yes.
And when you think of diva, you should think of sound, right?
Okay.
Because divas, they operate on a vibrational level and they emit these sound vibrations that manipulate energy flow. So when you're at a certain level of consciousness, your combined aura and your collective consciousness with other people vibrate at that frequency, and that's why you find yourself with them. And as you move above that level of consciousness, you find it very hard to be with those same people.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to work very, very hard to lower your vibrations to actually communicate with them and deal with them. It's a vibrational thing coupled with consciousness, because consciousness work through sound. The only way I'm communicating to you right now is through sound. Now, there's another communication happening on several different levels that you cannot see, but the main connection is sound, and that sound is that I'm voicing my consciousness to you. So sound and consciousness is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sound is the birth of sound comes from consciousness, because even your thoughts is sound. It's a sound, it's an audible sound that you cannot hear unless you merge the astral with the physical, or the etheric with the astral and the physical. So that's why we call it vibrations. And the speed of sound that you see on a physical level is not the speed of sound you see on a subtle level or astral level or an etheric level.
Mm-hmm.
Because it moves very, very quick. So it's the illusion, that's part of the veil that man have to get over. And they have to be able to develop instruments to see it. Because mind is sound, and mind moves faster than light. But yet,
Mm-hmm.
it's sound.
You actually go into deeper detail about that very subject you just mentioned in the next few lines. I didn't highlight it, but I'll go ahead and read it, because I think it gives more insight, additional insight into that into that consciousness, or sound being sound vibrations. It says here, if we take a moment to examine the use of sound today in our lives, we will notice a significant role it plays in our overall happiness and convenience. The ability to communicate effectively creates tremendous growth on the lives of people. And this communication is produced through sound. There are several expressions of sound that are used involuntarily and voluntarily through thoughts, feelings, desires, and belief systems. Then we go further to give some examples. For number one, the soundless state that is accompanied with various facial and bodily gestures that expresses thousands of words in all languages. The subtle sounds of the inhale and exhale of the breath as we engage in various activities. This expresses the depth of our mind and feelings in regards to the task at hand. And on this point, number 2, in chapter 4, it goes into greater detail of the subtle sounds behind the inhale and exhale, even the mantra that the soul repeats, which governs the breaths that we take, the 21,600 breaths that we take every day. Number 3, the sounds that's produced from the movements of pacing, walking, and running. Number 4, sound as the spoken word to express one's thoughts and feelings on a particular subject matter. And 5, sound as music to express feelings, thoughts, and musical sounds that capture periods of time which express political, religious, and social movements of whole generations of time. Okay, so that's on the gross level. But then here there are points, it goes into the more cosmic level. I won't read that here. You can go back and read that in the text in your own study. But just to expand further on what you're talking about. Next highlight, everything emits sound vibrations to gain experience through consciousness and expand its manifestation of consciousness. The involutional forces are the initial sound that engrosses consciousness. The evolutional forces are the sound vibrations that propel the points of consciousness toward liberation of its limitations. And I have a note here, see if that works. So I had a question about the evolutional forces of the sound vibrations, and that question was, are all of the mantras that are given to humanity of the evolutional force?
What do you mean, in order to develop?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, remember, the mantras are the original samskaras. So there are megabytes of energy stored within the chakras that, if properly intoned and used, you will be able to transform your consciousness, thereby transforming your subtle bodies and eventually your physical bodies. Okay, and your subtle physical bodies and your gross physical body, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the mission. That is why the soul created the 51 or the 50
Letters.
petals or BJs along the spine, and then over nearly 1,000 within the crown chakra, and in order to leave almost breadcrumbs as we evolve. And each one of those, as you absorb them, control them, and use them, you will get a greater and greater power to manipulate the elements of your subtle bodies, your astral bodies, and your etheric bodies, until you can transform all of them and form an ascendant body. And that's one of the great secrets of the mantra.
Mm-hmm.
As the great seers and swamis and masters tell us, that Java means to break the wheel of rebirth. And Java is repetition of mantra.
Let me state here that all of the questions I had written down in chapter 3 are addressed and answered in great detail in chapter 4. I'll still read the highlights and maybe some of the questions that I have posted in this for the sake of the open discussion, but everything that Nehemiah just said is in chapter 4 in greater detail. So I would highly encourage you to read the entire text, but to go back and look at chapters 1, chapter 2, look at chapter 3, and look at chapter 4. Again, chapter 4 is a bit of a long read, but there's a lot of information in it. And a lot of power contained in it that'll really help you in not only in your japa practice, but in your spiritual development. I can't emphasize that enough. Let's go to the next highlight. It is said that the first word spoken could only be an expression that gives the name to the one life, God the Absolute. And this word contained the expression of the will of God. Before the word was spoken, there was a force of endless potential in a state of complete static. These static forces of endless potential can be described as motionless state of the universal mind substance and the cosmic energies of prana. In a complete static state of endless potential, when the Absolute released the word, It had a rippling effect upon this universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy. Is that first word the Vok, or is Vok the term that we use to describe that first movement, that first word?
Vok is the term that we use to describe it.
Okay.
We know that the word was a combination of mantras, and we know that one half of it, at least that we're told, that one half of it was the AUM, and there's another half that's never spoken or never revealed until you reach a certain level of evolution or evolution.
So I think I have a, I think the highlight is on the next page. But I wanted to go a little more into the AUM and exactly what effect it has on us when we recite it in our japa practice. I know you've given many warnings, and as well as Dr. George King in his AUM lecture on the proper use and recitation of the mantra. It isn't one where you just casually use in your japa practice, but meant to be used for beginning or endings of the session or for very specific purposes. And you've also warned us not to do it indoors for various reasons. But what happens? What are we doing when we're reciting this creative word? And what does it do to us? What effect does it have on the aura? What are we becoming as we unleash this power within ourselves?
You know, just like I described before, Java means repetition of mantra. You are bringing about a risen state of consciousness. And if we understand consciousness transforms or mind, because consciousness is an aspect of mind. Mind molds and shape energy and matter. So if we intone these mantras, these original samskaras that the soul have left for us, which is megabytes of energy or tools to manipulate energy, then if we intone them right and use them properly, then we can release the tremendous amount of energy locked up in the vortex centers we call the chakras, and thereby begin to transform our consciousness to a state where we move away from this state of illusion or maya that we live in, and we'll begin to manipulate this prana and mind energy and matter to the point where we can evolve and move past the many cycles of incarnation that we have to go to in order to reach adeptship, mastership, and then eventually ascension, which brings us into the realms of becoming an avatar or cosmic being. So this is what happened with mantra. Mantra is one of the key sources to do this, because when you chant a mantra, it has an immediate effect. The power of mantra is guaranteed. It has an immediate effect on your aura. The first thing that someone can see and notice psychically is that your aura begins to spin. It creates a spin to the aura. Your negative energy within your aura begins to either burn up or fall down to an appropriate level where it's not affecting the upper chakras and the mind energy that you're pulling on from outside and within. So you notice this effect immediately. You get your mind become clear. You begin to see things on a different level, and you begin to even some things become laughable, to a certain degree. So you and you just, your mind and your consciousness rise to a whole different level of existence. And some of the most complex things now become very simple to understand, you know. So, and, so that's what mantra does for you. It transforms your consciousness. And when you transform your consciousness, you begin to transform any aspect of your life.
Are there any questions? Any follow-up questions? What is this one? I think you answered that already. Son of Rachel is the great way to cleanse all of it. Where's the next highlight? Okay, the actions of these four trinities are part of the involutional process of the Shakti and expressed by the great outbreath, the mantra, to lay out the evolutionary pathways of the life back to the Shiva power, the one life God, Supreme Being, through the great in-breath, the mantra So and Hum. So you should repeat your Ishta mantra at least 21,600 times daily to correspond to the 21,600 natural So and Hum breaths that every living being takes in and exhales. And my question there, which you answer later in chapter 4, is what is an Ishta mantra?
Don't I answer that in there?
Yeah, and then in the next chapter you do.
Yeah. I don't want to go into it too much because I can give several different meanings from it.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have it marked in the other book?
In chapter 4, no, I don't have that mark in chapter 4, but I do. I did mark where you go into detail of the in-breath and out-breath mantras, and also in the text it goes into great detail about that particular number, that 21,600 times, 21,600, as well as the 13 cores. In chapter 4, it talks about the utilization of the mala and how many repetitions are recommended or given to us by the rishis of old to attain liberation. It may seem like a daunting task, but it is possible. That's in chapter 4 as well. The word hamsa is often explained as sound produced by breath, the ejection of prana causing the sound ha, and its re-entry into the body, the sound sa. This spontaneous sound is widely known as the ajapa mantra. Ajapa Gayatri, or Hamsa mantra. The body is thought to recite this mantric sound automatically 21,600 times a day. The Yoga Shikha Upanishad counsels that this sound should be recited in reverse, namely as So and Ham, I am he. This is the wedge kilaka spoken of in the Hamsa Upanishad, by which the door to liberation can be forced open. So those of you who have the mantra initiation recording released by Dr. George King through the Ethereal Society, you will recognize this mantra, and now you see a glimpse to the wisdom and why the masters decided to include that in the mantras that he gave to us. And also, if you look at the soul mantras, you'll get and take this information as you study and practice the soul mantras, you'll see much more will be revealed to you with that. Now, there was a class that Nehemiah gave many years ago where it was for our benefit. He went into here again, where he gave kind of a translation of the mantra. He went into the translations of a couple other mantras to help us understand, you know, the structure, the configuration, the power, and the meaning of what we were reciting. It's a very good class, but I don't think that class was recorded. But I do remember taking notes for it. If I was sitting down taking notes for it, then that means I was not behind the camera. If it was not behind the camera, then it wasn't recorded. But if you send us an email about it, I think we can go into some more detail behind some of the mantras that are given. I think that'd probably be a private class. I don't think that would be a public class, but if people are interested in that, we can go into it. In the more traditional yogic teachings, the mantra So and Ham means I am divine. It's said that this mantra is repeated by the soul throughout the life of each individual. It is also this mantra that keeps the physical breath and the subtle flow of pranic forces in motion, sustaining the life on the physical plane of existence for a specific duration of time. Now, I highlight this because I wanted to go into it. Nehemiah has told us Nehemiah, you've told us in previous classes that the number of breaths that we will take in each incarnation is known. And once we've exhausted that allotment, we exit the physical body. And one of the secrets of pranayama is where you revealed this in class. So I'm like, I think I am okay with revealing it again. Is that when we retain and slow the breath, we extend our life because we're not burning up through that allotment of breaths granted to us in that particular incarnation. Now, you said here that we're taught to the Shikha Upanishad counsels that the sound should be recited in reverse. When we reverse that sound and recite that mantra, the So Ham mantra, what exactly are we doing? If the soul is reciting it to keep us in alive, keep in this incarnation, and we reverse that sound, what effect are we having? I know you said here there's the wedge, which to attain liberation, but are we separating ourselves from that physical incarnation? Are we removing ourselves closer to soul? Like what exactly are we doing?
I mean, just think about physics. One directions wrap something, and the other directions unwrap that thing. In other words, you can tighten a screw or you can loose a screw.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So to tighten that screw, you're wedging it into the groove. To untighten that screw, you are releasing it, freeing it. So it is with everything. You know, our consciousness are tightly locked down into this auric field, this localized auric field of consciousness. Therefore, we cannot see the real world, the real universe. We only look through it from the veils of this auric body that the soul have locked the consciousness into.
Mm-hmm.
When you release yourself from this, then you see that there's many realms of existence and that you have no beginning and no end. So that's the difference.
See if there are any questions. Conscious control. All right, we discussed that already. Discuss those highlights. It is said that the chakras, vortic points, are a combination of dozens of calibrated bits of modes of motion, which is sonic vibrations, created by subtle sounds of the bindu, nada, and bijas, or the chakras. This wave of organized subtle sound is a wave or stream of unified consciousness, unified conscious will that seeks to create forms and shapes to gain countless experiences through the involution and evolution of consciousness, through life's constant evolutions of consciousness. The arrangement of the chakras determines the expression of that involved life form. The arrangement of the chakras is done by the soul, which is a direct expression of the spirit, a divine spark of God. I think I had a question about that. So the soul, or the spirit, determining, as mentioned earlier, how or in what shape or form it wishes to take on in order to gain experience, is a directive to the soul to arrange the chakras in a way that manipulates the mind energy to form this particular expression of life, and so that it can gain experience. And each expression of life has its own arrangement of chakras, which is given by the directive of the spirit.
Well, it can mean several different things. I mean, we know that the chakras of a dog is different from the chakras of a human being. The arrangement of those chakras.
Right.
The same way the arrangements of the chakras of a cat or lion or gorilla. So also within human beings, when we start talking about arrangement, uh, the chakras are arranged similar to in every human body, except for which uh, petals within that chakra is accentuated or open or in full use or not in full use, have 2%, 10%, 12% in use. That's the arrangement from human to human, which allows us different levels of consciousness and different levels of skill set. Uh, even in the different races of humans, you find certain skill sets better utilized than others, because of its history, because of its ability to tap into a certain type of energy patterns from those particular chakras.
What's the highlight I had here? Oh, you already answered that one. As stated in the old ancient mystic writings, God took a piece of his consciousness and created the universe. This means that the will of God involved a piece of the consciousness of God into subtler and gross manifestations of God. And I put these two bits in blue because I basically wanted to highlight the entire paragraph, but so I'll just read them. So this in here he talks about the involutional and evolutional process. The involutional process can be described as the piece of the consciousness of God being involved and wrapped into countless garments of sonic configurations, forming countless shapes on various levels of frequencies within a framework of law that yield to express itself in the most subtle and gross forms of matter throughout manifestation. All right, so that's the involution. Now, the evolutional process can be described as the shedding of the countless garments of sonic configurations, forming countless shapes around and within the universal mind belt and the cosmic energies that form the points of consciousness called life streams or the spirit, a divine spark of God, and soul of man, the body of spirit. The shedding of these garments causes a clear and direct communication with the absolute and brings man in unison with the great rhythmic flow of the creative word's power, which is the will of God. The proper chanting of holy mantra with great reverence by man will allow him to tap into the absolute power and help him to burn up all the negative auric vibrations and liberate him from the limited consciousness of the embodied consciousness of the soul. I highlighted this because it reminded me of the description of the AUM given in the 9 Freedoms, where the old definition was creation, preservation, transmigration, and it was changed to by the Master Mars Sector 6 to creation, preservation, transmutation. that's what's being described here, right? In the evolutionary process, the creation, the evolution, the preservation, that love energy, and then now the transmutation, which is the shedding of those garments to cause a clear and direct communication with the absolute, brings man in unison with the great cosmic rhythmic flow of the creative word's power. That's what that transmutation means.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, it does. Yeah, but I think I know that was where Dr. King laid that out when he explained what Mars Sector 6 was talking about. But I think that was clear. It was coming focused and becoming clear even before he laid it out. But when he laid it out, it was crystal clear. You know, because it was the ancient teachings that needed to be understood better by mankind. And I think some of the cosmic masters that came before Dr. George King hinted to that, but they didn't make it as clear as he made it. You know, he made it crystal clear when he did the commentary on the 9 freedoms.
All right, and that concludes the highlights that I made for chapter 3. I won't go into chapter 4 today. But next time, I think we'll pick up with chapter next Friday. Pick up with chapter.
If you
Sorry?
go, I don't mean to cut you off. If you go to page 49 of the PDF version,
Okay.
you'll see the ISTA explanation I gave here. It's actually, the heading of it is reciting the residing devata of the mantra. If you scan to chapter 4, you see the residing devata of the mantra. That's where I give the answer. If you stay in the Kindle version.
Here. This passage here, the residing devata of the mantra.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in 49. It's on page 49.
It's chapter 5 or is it chapter 4?
That's it, page 49 right there.
Yeah.
Look in the center of it, you see it.
The third component of the mantra is the residing devata of the mantra, which some ancient texts call the presiding deity, which is a higher or lower power entity. Oh, I remember reading this. The devata is the mantra, and the mantra is the devata. And the mantra is recited with great devotion to the point where it lives in the man who is constantly reciting the mantra. The devata of the mantra reveals itself to the devoted practitioner and then merges itself with a particular power into the auric structure of the practitioner, expressing its full power. Yeah, this is chapter 4. I remember reading this. And anyway, this is the answer to my question. The Yoga Sutra describes the Eshta Devata as the spiritual forces that results from the constant recitation of the mantra. This deity is an aspect of the cosmic energies, that's better, that make up or manifest the forces of the higher self. The meaning of Devata here stands for the higher self of man, the great reflection of the soul of man that manages all his aspects of Shakti manifestation. The soul is the Devata aspect of man. It is the guardian of our destiny. The devotees of this ancient science recognize these forces that are called into play by the recitation of the mantra and is backed by a deity that is strictly governed by the divine presence of the divine laws of the lords of karma, who make sure the divine laws of God prevail throughout all creation. The soul strictly follows the divine laws of karma, manipulating the karmic energies that's produced from our constant thoughts and actions. The soul produces the right amount of karmic limitations directed by law and karmic pressures needed toward conformity. Another interesting point of mentioning is, which point in the meaning of the devata is that one, mankind is here on earth for a reason, and that is to consciously control the rise and fall of the power of Kundalini up and down the inner core of the spinal cord Sushumna, as told to us by Dr. George King, a great Western yogi master. Stated that when man can consciously raise the power of Kundalini at will up and down, up to the crown chakra, he becomes a devata, a guardian for humanity, because at this point, he has synchronized his consciousness to understand the higher frequencies in the mind, where he is able to understand the great laws of God or karma. And reading this just now, I got a deeper insight into Operation Prayer Power and some of the power behind it and the wisdom that went into designing that operation. So before we close out today, do we have any other questions? Yes, good question here. What do you mean by BM, Jack? I think you mean Black Magician, but I don't want to. I'm not sure. So with a mantra that we are reciting the name of a deity, which will one day reveal itself to us. Yeah, okay. Just as if we recite the name of a Black magician or another being, that name has this power.
I wrote this book to try to get away from a lot of the mythological stuff and to give people a great appreciation of the mantra. As you read the book, you'll notice that we go into the energy flow and the control of the energy flow. And in here, I go to explain to you that there's 360 divas manipulating energy to allow you and I and everyone in the physical body to exist on this physical plane of existence. Also, in this particular chapter, if you notice, I talked about the Ishtar Devata. I described that as what? Did you get that, Dwayne? I described it as what? The Ishtar Devata.
The spiritual forces.
Or the soul within you, your higher consciousness.
Yes, that manages all aspects.
It manifests. So the divas of the body they bring together certain energies in order to form consciousness. That consciousness operate as a diva. Water, when you see water, there's a diva. The water you see on your table when you put that water in the body, that water is controlled by a diva within the body. So you have the external divas and you have the internal divas that help control the flow of energy. Water is an energy. Certain subtle energy is controlled by a diva. So the deities is the resort of a positive and negative energy being developed within the body, and it carries on a certain function, and a diva resides over that. So you're not necessarily calling on someone outside of your body. You're calling on someone, the forces or the power within the body. The soul manages that. Now, it is true that if we knew the real name of Jesus, we can link ourselves to the flow of power from Jesus. If we knew the real name of Buddha, we can link ourselves to the full, but we only link ourselves to the energy that they allow us to link ourselves to, because one name cannot necessarily describe who they are. It could have it can have a layout, a signature layout of that person. The same way, if I took a cell from your body, the proper cell from the proper place in your body, I can well, not I, but someone can take that cell and clone and possibly clone a body that looks like your body. So because it has a signature layout of the physical makeup of you, and the astral makeup of you, and the etheric makeup of you. So it's not, you're not worshiping that particular thing. You may call on the signature energy of that particular thing, and so I just want you to kind of understand that. I mean, it's better to understand things in that way than get caught up in in the illusion that some entity or spirit is coming within you. It takes a lot of energy for an entity or spirit to take possession of you, and it brings on a lot of negative karma with them. Now, you can share the same energy configuration that they by shifting your consciousness in that direction. But I hope I'm answering your question. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Any additional questions or comments? My chat window, here it is. If there are no more comments or no more questions, let's close out today's open discussion, reciting the New Lord's Prayer.
And Dwayne,
Uh-huh.
let's recite this prayer, send this energy. If everyone can do it with your mics mute, but raise your hands and send this energy to those who in Louisiana where the hurricane is pounding them now. And let's ask that this energy protect them and make sure that the death that no one dies or the death number is very low. Okay.
Okay. Let's recite the New Lord's Prayer and send this energy as they might describe to the people of Louisiana, currently going through the hurricane. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so, receive for their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance and participation. Have a wonderful week and look forward to meeting you again next time. Take care.
All right. Thank you.